I think we would all agree that the problem of drugs in our society and the problem of addiction as a whole comes close to being right at the very heart of the social problems of our time. Not only is it a difficult problem, but it really seems as though none of the authorities or none of the people who are professionally trained find that they are equipped to deal with the problem. That's not to criticize anyone. That's simply to describe the fact. I think that's why psychiatrists and medical people, other people who work in the helping professions, have done what they could, but then finally we have found that just about the only help that is available at this time for the drug problem comes from people who themselves are ex-addicts. That's been a very interesting phenomenon to observe, that the only kind of curing that has been possible, or help that has been possible, has just been from people who had had the experience, who had one way or another moved through it, and who were able to help others in that situation, but notice, not with any professional training and not with any special method. And while that has been as helpful as can be, it does leave a great deal to be desired. Therefore, tonight, I would like to try something that I haven't done before, and I'm not sure that it can work, but with your help and imagination, perhaps it will. That is, I would like to talk about the question of the drug scene and what is involved in it, but in such a way also as to indicate a method or a kind of program, a kind of work that one can do, which may have a possibility of helping both individuals and the society as a whole. Now, the title that we have taken is The Drug Scene. What is it trying to tell us? Now, that question, that is that way of putting the title, is really inherent in our method, because it isn't only an intellectual question that we're placing. What does this situation mean? What does it have implicit in it? But it involves a central principle in our work at Dialogue House. That principle is that everything that takes place in our life experience is a continuing life process. That means it has a past, it has an inner principle in it, a kind of seed principle that is moving or unfolding, that is growing, and as it moves out of its past, it finds itself in a present where it either is unfolding and moving or where it is stymied and blocked. And when it is blocked, there are difficulties that are felt, and that then the posture that we take in what we call our dialogue method is that we place ourselves in relation to that life process in order to establish a kind of deep conversation, deeper than ordinary conversation, because it is an attempt to open ourselves to the process that is happening in the outer event. That is to say, not to understand it as it is, not to get some intellectual idea about it, not to analyze it, but to place ourselves in such a relationship to that process that is expressed in an event or in a person in relation to us or in a life, to place ourselves in such a position that that process can open to us and speak. That is to say, the sense is that a process is in motion. It is not a static condition that we deal with, that a process is in motion, even as a process is in motion within ourselves, in our own life. And the dialogue that we attempt then is a kind of moving relationship between ourselves and that process of the event or the person that we want to understand. That's a basic principle, and I want to try to show that, because in our stating the question this way, the drug scene, what is it trying to tell us? Implicitly, you see, we're indicating that this fact, that there are the conditions that in our society that have to do with the drug scene, which I needn't even, I think, take our time to describe. We assume that we know all too well that it's present. That condition is not something for us to regard as a fixed condition to be analyzed, but rather that we put ourselves in the relationship of seeing where it is trying to reach, how it unfolds, and that we do that by placing ourselves in relation to it. Now, in our workshops, as now we've developed, in addition to the basic workshop where we work with the journal, with the intensive journal, we've now developed a second type that we call the creative solving workshop. And the point of this type of workshop is that it works at problems not by going at them on the surface, but really in a way letting the problem be there at the surface while we in the workshop keep on moving downward, working into a relationship at a deeper than conscious level. That would be so that we can establish this dialogue, and that in establishing the dialogue, what takes place is that we make contact with factors or principles not only that are present, but that are moving, so that in the act of coming into relationship with the problem, we take it further.